And the last time I ever talked to him on the phone, gee, I was kind of feeling down. I said, I did a show the other day. I was really, I stank. He said, I can't believe that, Will. You never did anything that I didn't think was just fine. What a great thing. My head still rings. My chakras still turn thinking about that. That was Clint Walker.
Hi, I'm Rob Ward. Welcome to A Word on Westerns. Today we have a fellow Golden Boot Award winner, and it's well-deserved. It was presented to him by his pal, Clint Walker. I'm talking about Sugarfoot Will Hutchins. Will, welcome to the show.
Let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you. Tell me, what did you think of my last performance?
What have you got in your hand there, cowboy?
It's a Golden Boot, and when I got it, I said, this is heavier than an Oscar. And Babs yelled out from the audience, how would you know? But now I discovered I could put booze in there and have a drink. I can make it a writing cup or whatever you call it. The syrup cup. Yeah, you could put stuff in there.
Well, it's nice to have a prop like that, but the Golden Boot was something that we started with Pat Buttram years and years ago, and Pat was just the best.
He said things like, I love Westerns that always live in my heart and pay no rent and things like that. And then he started the Golden Boots, and he was such a great MC. And I wish he could have done the Oscar a time or two. He would have been wonderful. For 12 years, I worked in the NBC warehouse. And I used to ride my bike to work because somebody stole my car. And I just been back to the United States. I didn't have any money to buy insurance. So somebody stole my car out of the garage. And so I rode my bike to work back and forth for 12 years. And I used to listen to Morgan in the morning on my bike radio. And Pat Buttram always had a spot on there. And he was so funny. I'd get to my desk and I write down all of his jokes. And so the last time I saw him, I said, I use a lot of your jokes on my answering machine. Now Babs has confiscated that. She does the answering. But I used to do a lot of Pat Buttram stuff. Can I put this down now?
Yes, put it down, and please put it down. I'm sure you've drunk everything that it had in it. So that was presented to you, presented by your pal Clint Walker.
Cheyenne, Cheyenne, where will you be camping tonight? Lonely man, Cheyenne, will your heart stay free and light? Cheyenne, Cheyenne.
It seemed like Warner Brothers had the lock on ABC because not only did they have the Westerns, but of course, 77 Sunset Strip, Hawaiian Eye, Bourbon Street Beat. They had a great formula. And your show, Sugarfoot, came about because Clint Walker, as Cheyenne, couldn't work enough hours in the week to do 36 or 39 one-hour episodes, so you came in and alternated weeks with him. What was Clint Walker like?
Just the greatest. I think I have you to thank for my Golden Boot because I'd been out of the country for 3 years and I came back. I didn't know from Golden Boot, and I met you, and you invited me to come to the Golden Boot, and I didn't even know what that meant. And Babs couldn't go, so I went by myself, and it was just marvelous. What a great thing.
Well, we were all thrilled to have you there, and so many of the great Western stars, and you fit right in because you were the lead of a top Western series as well. So Sugarfoot, I know the first episode, while it took the title from the Randolph Scott movie, they took the plot from that Will Rogers film.
The Boy from Oklahoma, directed by Michael Curtiz.
Oh, and Merv Griffin. Merv Griffin was in that.
Oh, yeah, he played the bad guy, didn't he? Anyhow, I remember him in it. Anyway, back to Clint Walker, my hero. When I got the Golden Boot, I was really scared. It's about as scared as I am right now talking with you. Flop sweat, Anyhow, he was consoling me all day long. We hung around. It was a whole day before we went indoors for some reason. So I saw him all day around a swimming pool and stuff, and he was consoling me. And I got to sit at his table, and I sat next to him, and he was consoling me and giving me pep talks and saying you'll do fine. And he was the MC of that segment where all the Warner Brothers Cowboys got their golden boots. So I never forgot that. That was such a great thing for him to take his time to do. And the last time I ever talked to him on the phone, I was kind of feeling down. I said, I did a show the other day. I was like, I stank. He said, I can't believe that, Will. You never did anything that I didn't think was just fine. What a great thing for my head still rings. My chakras still turn thinking about that. That was Clint Walker.
Well, all you guys were so tall, it seemed like, at Warner Brothers.
The tallest I ever got, I slumped now. Babs will always say, straighten up, and she puts a starch in my long johns, but I was only 6'1.5" at the tallest. But the other guys, Clint, I don't think was quite that tall, except in his boots. The tallest, I guess, is Jim Arness. Yeah. And I did that one Gunsmoke, and boy, did I feel sorry for his force. Gee.
Well, that Gunsmoke that you did with Arness, with a terrific part. Ted Post directed that. What a wonderful director. What was that like after all those years starring in your own show to have a nice meaty part where you're accused of murder on the Gunsmoke?
It was a successful show by the time a real success, number one. And he'd done it so long that he wouldn't do the over shoulders and all that. The script guy would read his lines. You had to adjust to that, but he deserved it. And he produced a lot of the shows, I guess, and okayed the scripts. And we'd sit around before each scene and he'd say, "Don't leave that line." He cut the dialogue to the bone, and which made it more terse and powerful, I think. I think he was great. And then he wouldn't rehearse straight. He'd rehearse like John Carradine doing Shakespeare. Oh, my fellow hog. And you went, what? And you had to pretty much toe the line, but no, he was just taking off. And I think that was to relax us all and to keep us from getting into a rut and knowing exactly what we were going to do ahead of time. And that made it very fresh. Now, I understand that Brando did his thing where he didn't learn his lines. He had lines written all over the set. You'd have heard that. A friend of mine saw Jack Nicholson do a scene from Hoffa. He was on the set. And Nicholson subscribed to that too, not learning your lines and getting all stilted and thinking ahead and trying to do it exactly the way you've been doing instead of fresh. So he was doing a big scene in front of the jury. And he got hooked up some way with his ears, and he had a friend in a closed soundproof box feeding him the lines. Jack Nicholson doing this long monologue. I got to see this movie. I don't know how they could do that and keep it flowing. So that Brando was the same way. He had these lines written all over, so he could almost discover them at the moment and say them fresh.
You worked with Jack Nicholson early in Jack's career in a classic, the two Monte Hellman films. You were in The Shooting with Jack Nicholson, Warren Oates, and Millie Perkins. I'll bet Jack wasn't reading or getting fed the information on his earphone back then.
You want to ride with me, boy? Okay. How'd you like the way I done Leland drums? Like I say, I'll blow it off the first word out. Go sit down over there. Your brain's gonna fry out here, you know that?
That dialogue was so beautiful. It's the best dialogue I ever read for any part I was in. It was written by Carol Eastman. Now, for some reason, she used a pen name or whatever you call it for that, a man's name.
You did a couple of episodes of Sugarfoot with Charles Bronson. What was that like?
Oh, God. Oh, gee. It was just terrific. I just remember one instance right offhand. We were outside. Oh, this is called A Bullet in the Cross. Very low budget. We spent the whole time in a cave inside a cave after it had been blown by dynamite or something. Maybe it took dynamite to get us out of there, but we spent a whole hour in this cave, just the two of us, a little claustrophobia there. But we're outdoors in one scene. We finally got outside, and he went up to his horse, the horse he was using, and he grabbed the pommel and just eased himself up into the stirrup without using his feet. And I thought, wow, geez, he could only fake that and make it look like me. And I know he did the same thing with Clint Walker. He did a leap up onto a table or something, challenged Clint. Clint, believe it or not, was able to do it, duplicate it. So he was just tremendous. And then the other one was great too. He fell in love with this actress who was so a lot like Ingrid Bergman, Annalisa. She reminded me of Ingrid Bergman. And he fell in love with her. He was a ranch hand. Mail order romance. He sent her a letter with my picture and asking her if she would be interested. And so she was. And so for some reason, I had to get involved in that. I wish he hadn't done that, but that's how it started.
At Warner Brothers, what was so terrific is all of those shows together, you all appeared in each other's shows. On Cheyenne, you and Ty Hardin were in that together. What was that like at Warner Brothers? Did they say, here, we've got something special, or they just say, today you're doing this?
I just went along with, I used to complain a lot. Geez, the scripts, I used to write ironic comments in the margins. I was called 20 Takes Hutch, yeah.
What was that like on Warner Brothers? Because I know they had such a tight schedule with you having to do 20 takes.
Well, I didn't really ever do 20, but that was my joke because it's all concentration. I did a Sugarfoot once with that great guy, Carl Swanson. He played Lord Henry Brinter on Our Girl Friday, or what it was called, Our Girl Friday on the radio. It was a soap opera. So I grew up hearing his voice. And then I got to work with I got to work with all these great radio people who'd all been sort of phantoms to me. Now I got to work with him. And gee, it was a treat working with him. I got to work with him a few times. And I was having some trouble one day. We had a scene. The two of us were outdoors. And when I see the scene now, it stinks. I didn't really do much for it. But I was having trouble with it. And he said, just concentrate. Just look at the tip of my nose. And that is a secret, concentration. Yeah, I should have gone to a concentration camp and learned how to do that better.
Well, in all of the Sugarfoots and looking at those Warner Brothers TV shows, they used a lot of B-Western stars in those. Don Red Berry and Bob Steele. What do you remember about those guys?
Oh, and one of the great ones, the great horseman. He had a brother that was famous too. He was an extra on Sugarfoot. I couldn't.
Oh, Kermit Maynard, I bet. Kermit
Maynard. I wrote a column once. I said, of all the horse mounts I've seen over the years, that was just about the best. The way he ran along the boardwalk and leapt on a horse. Didn't use it. I don't even think he used his hands. It was just brilliant. It was just a brilliant mount. And I imagine sometimes I couldn't help thinking, what does he think of me on my horse? Actually, I've been doing a lot of cogitating and reminiscing lately, in the last few years. And I think I like just about everybody I worked with. I'm not sure it worked both ways. Even the people I thought I didn't like, some of the bosses, the suits.
The executives at Warner Brothers, how tough were they? How strict were they in what they allowed you to do?
Well, they had a lot of rules. It was just like going to school. You try to figure out how to fool the teacher. Oh, the last day I was on a lot. All they assembled all the contract players. I'd never seen them all assembled in one day. And I used a Bob Hope joke. I said they put me in the back row because they didn't have enough pants to go around. So anyhow, we were all there. And Jack Warner didn't usually show up for these pictures. They superimposed them later on, faked it. But here he had Natalie Wood on one arm and Angie Dickinson on the other. I would have showed up too for that. And I mentioned to Clint, I've been here for 5 years and I've never met Mr. Warner. I guess I was the only one. And he says, well, I'll introduce you. And he pushed me right over. And he says, Mr. Warner, hi, Clint, great to see you, he said, looking right straight at Clint. Not at me, right at Clint, shook his hand. Great to see you, Clint. You're looking terrific. Oh, thank you, Miss Warner. Will here says that he's never met you. Really? I've seen him in the flashes. And that was it. And the next week, they shipped me over to the Philippines to fight MERRILL'S Marauders, Sam Fuller's MERRILL'S Marauders.
Almost 3,000 of us marched into that stinking, treacherous jungle. And barely 200 of us were left at the end. We won. Yeah, this was a job they said couldn't be done. But the American fighting men who did it were called MERRILL'S Marauders.
MERRILL'S Marauders was such a terrific movie, and Sam Fuller, of course, he had been in the trenches in World War II and later did The Big Red One and other war films, Steel Helmet. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was just like being in the Army again. He made us, we had all these special forces guys. A lot of them went over to Vietnam after the picture, and a lot of them didn't come home. And I still get a letter from a guy who's now a general, Clyde Sincere. He was a colonel, I guess. And we still write Christmas cards to each other. And it was just great working on that.
I've always heard that Sam Fuller, sometimes, not every time, instead of saying action, he'd pull out a pistol and shoot it. Did he do that?
He did that. I was going to hope that bullet isn't coming down. Maybe it was just a blank, I hope. Oh, he was marvelous. Working on location is so much better than on the soundstage. Because at the end of the day, everybody sticks together. They're all buddy, and we don't have to go home, and we get to know each other. And I think it helps the acting and the whole ambulance of the movie improves diametrically because we're actually on the spot. We were supposed to be in Burma. We were in the Philippines, but a jungle is a jungle, and we shot it right outside of Manila.
Yeah, another terrific director that you did with an all-star cast of young up-and-comers is William Wellman's Lafayette Escadrille. You had David Jansen and Tab Hunter and Clint Eastwood in that, and Bill Wellman Jr. What do you remember about that?
Oh, that was my initiation into a feature film. And what a great guy it was to start with, William Wellman. Gosh, he was just... You could tell he knew what he was doing. And his son played him in the movie because he actually was in the Lafayette Escadrille.
Men like Tommy Hitchcock, Duke Sinclair, Bill Wellman, Dave Putnam, and many others.
Went over there to fight World War I, and so his son played him.
Yes.
And we all played real people. And I had building over Clint Eastwood because he wasn't in a contract then. And there was one scene where we're all asleep in our cots, in the barracks. William Wellman, with that great voice of his, read the voiceover right on the spot. It wasn't dubbed in later. And then he came to me, and I was so nervous and I was so excited, and my eyes fluttered. And I said, "That's not depicting a dead guy." Maybe they cut, just use a still shot of it. But he was so great. And I had to do an opening scene. Tab Hunter comes to our barracks. I think he's on the lam too. He comes to our barracks, and we all welcome him. And I'm in just skivvies. Clint Eastwood's wearing a T-shirt, and I'm in skivvies. And I say, Mr. Allman, Mr. Wellman, couldn't I wear a T-shirt too? I mean, look at these guys with their bills. They're wearing T-shirts. He says, son, I made a movie once, you might have heard of it, Wings. It won the Oscar. An actor came up to me after taking, he said, Mr. Wellman, can I do that shot again? I said, why? He says, well, I was picking my nose. I said, son, keep picking your nose and you'll be a big star someday. That guy was Gary Cooper. And so we did the scene without my shirt, and I did it. He said, "Cut print." Wow, that surprised me. And he was so funny. I just said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I thought you were going to stink." I said, "Yeah, I had to ask, didn't I?" And I was living over a garage then, and it took 20 minutes to fill the bathtub. And so I'm waiting there patiently for the bathtub to fill. My mom says, "Somebody on the phone for you, Mr. Wellman, Mr. Wellman." So I go, "Hello, Mr. Wellman." And he said, I just want to tell you, I think you're doing a fine job. We're going to build up your part." And I think he was trying to atone for saying that. I thought I was going to stink. But geez, he went to the trouble to call me and pat me on the back over the phone. And I thought, geez, this is great business. Wow, I'm glad. Well, he was the only director ever to do that, except for Monty Pittman.
And then with Clint, later on, you did Magnum Force with him, that Ted Post directed. How were you casting that? Because I was so surprised to see you in the film because you were unbilled. It was just a special cameo for me. I went, "Oh, look, there's Will."
I don't think I got billing, but I was in the circus then. And I was a ringmaster and a clown in several circuses. And I forget I guess I was a clown in this particular circus. And we were going to open in the Boston Arena where the Boston Celtics play. And I said, "I'm going to get to see that famous floor. Oh boy, it's going to be great working in here." Get a phone call. "Come out to Hollywood. You're going to do Magnum Force." So I flew out to LA, then went up to Frisco and did Magnum Force. And I played a cop. So I'm outside waiting for my turn, and some lady came up and asked me some questions. She thought I was a real cop. I thought that was good. So I played a cop who gets shot, but I had a bulletproof vest on. But I don't know if the audience understood that. So I get shot, and I go, boing. Then I come back into the scene. And I always wondered, I haven't seen the movie in a long time. So I was, they showed it finally at Warner Brothers. And I was invited for the screening. By then, I was through with the circus, I guess. And so I went to see the movie. And guess who was in the audience? Mae West, of all people. Mae West saw me in a movie. There used to be a theater. I don't know if you heard of it. Remember, it was called the Hitching Post. Mm-hmm. There was one in the Valley, but there was one on Hollywood Boulevard. And I was a movie nut, always was. My grandmother would pick me up at grammar school when I was in kindergarten on Thursdays and take me to the movies. So I just fell in love with movies. First movie I ever saw was the March of the Wooden Soldiers, or whatever they called it. Babes in Twilight. Jeez, I loved it. And I got to spend it even with Stan Laurel once. Jeez, that was great. But anyhow, I love the movies and love Westerns. And Saturdays, I take the Asbury Transit bus into Hollywood Boulevard, get off, and go to like Pantages or the Grauman's Chinese or the Paramount to see a movie. But then afterwards, I'd fork over some more money and go see the B Westerns at the Hitching Post, which I really loved.
Well, I've been a fan for a long time, and it's just been fun to listen to your stories and to share your memories with all of your Western fans.
But you are a master, and I appreciate you just got me rolling, and I could have gone all day.
You're part of our legacy. Thank you, Will. We'll see you down the road, pal.
Adios, amigo. See you around the campfire. Yeehaw!